Hello, my name is Stephen Glassford with the Education Committee for the ATU. Pretty soon, we're going to be voting on uh, a new contract proposal as a union, and my job today is to give you a rough idea of what it's going to be and answer some frequently asked questions. So, yesterday was Thursday, and President Stiggers gave a late speech answering many of the questions. And I have taken up a lot of notes, and I'm going to give you a bit of an idea of what was happened in that meeting yesterday because many people couldn't attend. So thank you for giving me some moments. I'm going to tell you what's in the offer, what members pushed back on, and what the board said about it. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. The board didn't agree, so I wouldn't be honest for me to pretend there's an answer here. Let's start with money, because that's what most of us are voting on. The wage increase is 10.5% over 3 years. That's 3% in the first year, 3.5% in the second, and 4% in the third year. If it is ratified, bus operators at full scale go to $38.24 an hour on August 1st. President Stiggers did the math out loud at the forum. At that rate, if you worked 10 hours of overtime every week for a full year, you'd clear 6 figures. That's before shift differential. Next is longevity. And you should know that members at the forum argued about what to call it. It's a percentage bonus with a hard dollar cap. So several people said we should call it a bonus, not longevity. But it's a step forward, but it's capped. Here's how it works. It starts August 1st, 2027. At 10 to 14 years, you get 1.5%, capped at $1,500. At 15 to 19 years, 2%, capped at $2,000. At 20 years or more, 2.5%, capped at $2,500. Two things that came up and matter. First, this is not a one-time. Once you hit 10 years, you get it every year for the life of the contract, and it's stepped up as you cross 15 and 20 years. Second, if you don't want the bonus landing on a paycheck and pushing you into another tax bracket for, let's say, you can put it into deferred comp. That's a form. That answer came out of a conversation the president had with the company the day of the forum. And a member pointed out it isn't written into the document. So that's a question worth asking again on Sunday. Now, health insurance. The core answer is that it doesn't change. Open access is not going anywhere. The optional plan C stays. The employer preserves the actuarial value of the optional HRA for the life of the agreement and can't change it unless they sit down with us and agree. The table of the actuarial values in the back of the contract stays in the contract. A member asked about that directly because the way it was written made it look like something was being taken out. It isn't. It's cleanup language that wasn't labeled as cleanup, and it stirred the pot. Long-term disability is new. It covers eligible employees and the employer pays for it. Retirees, there's new language that says at age 65, the medical plan option available is limited to an employer-sponsored Medicare plan. That does not change whether a retiree is eligible for retiree health benefits, and it does not change what the employer contributes. The reasoning that the company gave is that they don't want people buying Medicare coverage that duplicates what they already have and paying twice for the same prescription or dental benefit. But here's the honest part. Nobody has seen the list. A member asked which Medicare plan, and the answer was that the company hasn't shown us. Another member asked repeatedly for a summary plan description with real numbers behind it, and the answer was that the company hasn't provided one. And the Medicare pricing is specific to each individual. If that matters to you or to a retiree you know, that's a live question, not a subtle one. There are two appendices about retiree benefits that generated a lot of concern. First was Appendix A, which sets up a review of ways to save retirees money. Appendix B is a feasibility review of a union cost offset. A member read the line saying the employer has sole discretion over the scope and conclusions of any review and asked whether we have any say at all. The answer given was this: they can run a review and reach whatever conclusion they want, but under our contract, anything touching health insurance has to come through the union, the board, and then the membership. Nothing changes without a membership vote. The idea behind Appendix B is one the union has been kicking around. Members put in about 1% of salary. We push Metro to match that, and that fund eventually restores retiree health care for people hired after 2004. A local in Washington, D.C. did something like this and got their retiree insurance back. It's a study, not a commitment. Now a real win on a long-running problem. You know, members who got pulled off their work by a company doctor, held out for weeks or months while bringing in their own doctor's notes and never got paid for it? There's contract language on that now. Article 3, Section 4, if they send you for a fitness of duty evaluation and it finds you fit, they pay you at the base rate for your regularly scheduled work time up to 30 days. 2 catches though. You have to make yourself available when and where they set it, and you don't get paid for delay that you caused. 2 pieces of advice that came out of that discussion: if the company hands you a form asking for your medical information, don't fill it out before you talk to your union office or your rep. Signing it can open up everything, and HR should not be asking you for your records directly. If that's happening at all, call the office. Sick leave and the Health Care Savings Plan, the HCSP. The cap on what you can carry becomes 1,700 hours. 1,700 hours. For people hired after 2004, that's a reduction. The cap was 2,800. In exchange, anything above 1,700 hours can go into your HCSP at 1%. Instead of 70% it used to convert at. Or it used to go, in exchange, anything above 1,700 hours can go into your HC at 100%. Instead of the 70% it used to convert at. And in 2028, that conversion moves to 100%. If you're carrying a big balance and you're near retirement, sit down with somebody and run your own numbers on that trade. Some smaller items quickly. Vacation improves. 3 weeks at 5 years, 4 weeks at 10, 5 weeks at 16. Free transit for employees and their dependents on your health insurance. Bereavement improved. Safety glasses reimbursement goes up. Uniform allowance goes to $450. The referral and retention bonus is extended. Dispatcher wage class goes up by 4 to 6 classes. Military pay differential, and note the wording change from may pay to will pay for leave over 30 days. On that last one, a veteran at the forum raised a gap. The language covers National Guard and reserves. People who are currently enlisted. It doesn't cover someone with no current status who gets called up for a draft. The answer was that this would take a conversation with labor relations about a separate memorandum. It's not in this contract. Now the parts the members pushed back hardest on. The maintenance article was rewritten. Departments got walled off. And if you bid into another department and then bounce back in under 12 months, you're committed for 3 years to the department you came back to. The officer who worked on the language said it doesn't stop you from picking different work or a different garage, only from moving between departments. And that switching departments is rare anyway. Members weren't satisfied. Multiple people said 3 years is extreme, that a year would be reasonable, and that life circumstances change. One member raised that we've been through an expensive lawsuit with this company over job classifications before. Another said the whole article was wiped out and replaced. that you now go through HR and take an assessment where before your bid card and your seniority spoke for themselves. Rail and bus. The new language says employees hired after ratification who want to go to rail have to go through bus training first. If you are already here, this does not touch you. You are not going to be told to drive a bus if you currently work here, but you would after the contract, if you got hired after the contract. You are not going to be told. The reason is that a rail operator who washes out currently has to reapply at bus to keep seniority, and that takes months and costs people money. This gives new people a safety net. It also means those operators can cover bus bridges when rail goes down. Not everybody accepted that account. At least one member said the company tried to lock people out of moving between bus and rail before. It didn't work, and this reopens that door. There's a new operator familiarization pilot. 3 or 4 extra runs get added to each garage. Everybody picks first. This is leftover work after the pick, not work taken out of it. Then dispatch builds these leftovers into pieces for brand new operators who work them roughly 8 or 9 hours a day, 5 days a week, for 3 or 4 weeks instead of getting thrown straight into the extra board. 3 trip agents get 2 15-minute breaks they can combine into a half hour, plus real pick notice. 3 weeks notification, work posted 2 weeks out, picking done 14 days ahead. Overtime becomes transparent with a list showing who signed up when, so a manager can't override that order. The company refused to add a dispatcher for the trips agents. One more thing, not in the contract, but potentially worth a lot. A member raised a state law effective January 1st of this year. No scheduled break, and they owe you a half-hour penalty. He put it at about $19 a day, $95 a week, $5,000 a year, going back to January as a class action. The president said he would take it into our attorney with the caveat that Metro Transit might respond by tightening schedules. Watch for an answer Sunday. Also not in the contract, AI cameras. The union proposed limiting the company to reviewing 3 minutes before and 3 minutes after a triggered event. The company refused to counter, so we still have no camera language. The company says it isn't pursuing AI right now and is open to talking about it. Reduced service days aren't in this contract either. They're supposed to come up as a separate agreement before the end of the year. Finally, the board. What did the board say? The board did not recommend this contract. 5 voted yes, 13 or 14 voted no, and there was 1 abstention. That was described at the forum as a split, and a member pushed back on that word. 5 to 13 is about 75-25. The case for yes from the president. Our wages are in the top 10% nationally for both drivers and mechanics. We're above places like San Francisco and San Diego, where the cost of living is much higher. The national median for bus operators is somewhere around $22 to $24 an hour. State workers are getting raises closer to 1%. SEIU janitors top out around $22. His read is that there isn't more to get and that the longevity language, capped as it is, gives us something to build around on the next round. The case for no, from an officer who recommended against it. There are real gains in this contract, and that's not the objection. The objection is process. New language is supposed to be in red ink and removed language struck through, so you can see exactly what changed. That didn't happen. Some retiree language got corrected after a conversation with the company. The rest didn't get corrected with it. His position is that he'll recommend no on an improper proposal no matter how good the contract is, and that he's not upset with a yes or no. He wants people to vote on their conscience informed. That's where it stands. The vote is Sunday at the Delta Hotel. Discussion starts at 9. Voting runs from 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. If you're working Sunday, you can vote Monday at the Union Building, second floor, from 5 in the morning until 5 in the evening. Bring your questions on Sunday. Several things in here: the Medicare plan list, the summary plan description, the deferred comp option for the bonus, the 3-year maintenance commitment, and the break penalty did not get a complete answer at the forum. Ask them again before the vote. In solidarity. Thank you, and have a good night. Signing off.